Hello everyone, and welcome to my Young and the Restless Official 24 channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. 2 people die as a result of Kane's sacrifice for Lily. The Young and the Restless spoilers update for Monday, July 28th, reveals that Nick Newman will kiss Sharon Newman while Kane Ashby's sacrifice for Lily Winters ends in 2 deaths. Sharon will be pushed to stay with Nick on the train as he continues to groan about his injury. Nick will eventually plant a kiss on Sharon and ask her to come closer after a warm moment. Sally Spectra will hike down to see how much progress has been made on the tracks and will learn they were finished 2 days ago. Meanwhile, Lauren Fenmore Baldwin will try to convince Nikki Newman not to give up Chancellor for Nick's freedom. Nikki will remain determined to save her son on Monday's Y&R episode, but she'll insist on seeing Nick with her own eyes before she signs anything. Amanda Sinclair will take Nikki and Lauren to the storage room, so they'll all be alarmed over the blood left over from Nick's ordeal. Victor Newman will continue to eavesdrop with Chancellor as Kane tries to coax a murder confession out of Carter. When the security guard interrupts Kane with news on Nick's injury and getaway with Sharon, Victor will take off to find them. Victor will learn from Nick and Sharon how their escape went down once he is on the train. Amanda will make sure cell service is turned back on and will call the police to the estate right away. Once Nikki fusses over hurt Nick on the train, everyone will realize the cell signal is back. Kane will be eager to bring everyone home because he knows he is lost, so Victor will assume it is. Sharon will contact Adam Newman and get him to send some assistance for Nick before the sound of a helicopter is heard. He will convince Carter, back with Kane, that Damien posed a threat to his boss' perfect reunion with Lily. As flashbacks demonstrate that he was in fact the culprit, Carter will explain his meticulous plan. Carter will want to change his name and start over after he asks for help leaving the country. Kane make it clear that's not happening, though he'll suggest Amanda might be willing to defend Carter as a client. Once Chance comes out of hiding, he'll intend to hold Carter until the authorities take over. Carter will be furious that Kane has turned against him after offering him so much loyalty. Carter will pull out a gun and take Lily hostage whenever she shows up so he can try to leave the estate. Billy Abbott will come face to face with Carter and Lily as they navigate the maze and attempt to calm Carter down. Kane will exchange himself for Lily as a hostage when Chance and Kane finally catch up to the rest of them. Once Carter lets Lily go and holds his weapon on Kane, he'll decide to end his boss life and leave Lily freaking out. Chance will leap in front of Kane and engage Carter in a struggle over the gun, which Chance will shoot into his chest. Chance will realize he won't make it after falling to the ground, and he will want Dominic Newman, Abbott, Winters, and Chancellor to know how much he loves them. Billy, Kane, and Lily will all be gathered around as they realize Chance is dead. Kane will discover Carter's body after a second gunshot sounds because Carter will also die by himself. Jack Abbott will slam Kane for his disastrous party once he and Diane Jenkins Abbott learn of the horror. Lily will just want to go home, so Kane will insist he can arrange that. After Lily says she's sorry for accusing Kane of murder, she'll acknowledge that's not something he would do. When it comes to his goal of regaining Lily and starting a new life in Genoa City, Kane will ultimately refuse to give up. Phyllis Summers will conclude that Billy no longer desires Kane as an ally once she learns about the Chance and Carter drama. Billy will get Phyllis help because he will not back down from working with Kane to pursue Chancellor. When it came to Lily Winters, Kane Ashby had always been honest with himself. From their first fiery spark to the darkest, most unforgiving trials, he'd proven time and again that his love for her was unconditional, even if it came at the expense of his safety, his freedom, or his very soul. But no one in Genoa City could have predicted the way his final act of devotion would unfold, a selfless, desperate move to protect Lily from a storm they never saw coming. Carter was the storm, the man whose darkness had been underestimated for a long time and whose manipulation slowly crept into their lives until it was too late. It began on a rainy Thursday, the kind of overcast day that foreshadowed doom in soaps like this. Lily had been receiving anonymous text messages for weeks, cryptic phrases like "you took what was mine and he'll pay dearly." At first, she dismissed them as pranks, until a chilling message arrived with a photo, her children. The threat existed. And as much as Lily tried to hide it, Kane noticed the tremor in her voice, the haunted look in her eyes. He pressed her, demanded honesty, and when she finally told him, Kane didn't hesitate. He contacted the Chancery in the hope that authorities would intervene. However, Carter was too smart, too cautious. Too little is seen. The breaking point came next. Outside of Genoa City, Lily fell into a trap in an abandoned estate. She thought she was going to meet a woman claiming to have proof about Carter's criminal past. But what she walked into was a prison. Carter had been watching her. Every action. Every encounter. Additionally, he desired to kill Lily as a form of retribution for the life he believed she had ruined. Bound and gagged, Lily found herself face to face with a monster she barely recognized. Carter's charm gone, his smile twisted, his eyes cold with malice. She was unable to do anything but pray. Kane arrived minutes later, having traced Lily's last GPS ping before her phone went dead. He felt a primal instinct when he saw her bruised and terrified, tied to a chair. He didn't think. With uncontrollable rage, he launched himself at Carter with flying fists. The two men engaged in brutal combat, slamming into walls, furniture, and drawing blood. Kane's only goal was to protect Lily. That had always been the goal. Always would be. However, Carter was armed. He pulled it mid-fight, and in the chaos, a shot rang out. The screaming Lily Kane fell. For a moment, everything stopped. Carter stared at the smoking gun in his hand, almost surprised by what he'd done. Lily was sobbing, trying to crawl toward Kane, whose body lay motionless on the floor, blood spreading beneath him. But even in pain, even on the brink of death, Kane reached out his hand and whispered, "Run, Lily. Run now." She also did. Lily escaped that night, thanks to Kane's sacrifice. However, the tale did not end there. Carter was not done yet. Carter vanished as paramedics arrived and carried Kane, who was barely alive, away. The estate didn't find his body. No fingerprints. There are no traces. Merely chaos. Additionally, "I'll finish this" was written on the wall in blood-red pen. Back at the hospital, Kane underwent emergency surgery. He once fell over. Twice. He did, however, miraculously survive. When Lily saw him open his eyes, she wept. She held his hand, promising she'd never let him go again, that everything would be different now. She was saved by him. She would use the remainder of hers to ensure that his was not wasted. But peace is fleeting in Genoa City. 2 weeks passed, and Carter resurfaced, this time more brutal, more determined. He once more targeted Lily, this time Chancellor Winters. A bomb threat cleared the building. Lily was shaken, but not injured. However, Kane was the last to leave because he had been there for a meeting. So they believed. In a twist no one expected, Carter had disguised himself as a paramedic and snuck into the cleared building, locking Kane inside the stairwell before detonation. Kane fought to escape, pounding on doors, screaming for help. When he did finally get out, he saw Carter disappear into a black SUV just in time. Kane ran after him. He refused to give up, even though his gunshot wound was still causing him pain. He followed Carter across state lines, deep into the woods outside of Chicago. Additionally, that is the location of the final altercation. A showdown in a deserted cabin. Outside, crashing thunder. Rain lashing against broken windows. Kane and Carter squared off once more inside. Kane growled, pointing a revolver directly at Carter's heart, and said, "You'll never touch her again. You think this ends with you stopping me?" Carter grinned. "You are merely a pawn. I own Lily. Her destiny is pain. And I'll be that pain until my last breath." Both men lunged simultaneously. A single shot rang out. Then silence. The cabin was destroyed when authorities arrived 2 hours later. 2 bodies, blood on the floor, and broken furniture. Kane was dead. Carter also, when she was told, Lily's screams could be heard echoing throughout the hospital. She collapsed to her knees, sobbing uncontrollably. Dead men, too. One of her foes. The other the love of her life. His final act had saved her, again. But at the highest cost imaginable. And as she stood over Kane's casket days later, the words she spoke were barely a whisper. "You gave everything for me. And now I have to live with it." However, Genoa City does not permit prolonged repose. Rumors started to spread that Carter's body had been changed before being buried. That the body had been burned so badly that it couldn't be seen. That the DNA match was inconclusive. Also, Kane? Some said he never made it to the morgue. Was it truly over? Or just another beginning cloaked in tragedy? The silence in Lily Winter's apartment was louder than any thunderclap outside as she stood frozen in front of the bathroom mirror. The second pink line stared back at her like a lightning bolt striking the center of her world, shaking the white plastic stick in her hand. Hear how her throat caught her breath. Pregnant. Lily was having a baby. With Chance Chancellor's baby. The name echoed in her mind like an alarm that wouldn't turn off. She was hit by the realization like a freight train, bringing with it a whirlwind of questions, guilt, disbelief, and a strange, baffling glimmer of joy that she was afraid to let out. She retreated from the sink with one trembling hand on her stomach, as if she could already feel the embryonic life growing within. She only felt the internal chaos, though. She thought back to that night, the night that changed everything. Kane had left the door that night, unable to deal with the betrayal he believed she had committed. The previous night, Chance had shown up, attempting to appear as the friend he had always been and the one who could see through her walls. Hearts had been bare and raw, and feelings were high. And in a moment of vulnerability, she and Chance had crossed a line they never meant to, a line neither of them dared to define afterward. It was intended to be an error. A single instance of confusion and suffering. They'd never spoken about it again, both silently agreeing to bury the memory and pretend it hadn't happened. But now that silence was screaming back at her with undeniable proof. A baby. Still holding the test in her hand, Lily sank to the edge of the bathtub as her legs gave out. She didn't even look at her phone, despite the nearby buzzing. She recognized Kane. Or even Amanda, perhaps? Devon, perhaps? However, at this time, none of them could assist her. Why would they? What would she even say? And what would she say to Chance? The most terrifying thing of all. He didn't know. He didn't know. He'd gone back to work as if nothing had happened. He'd even started seeing someone else discreetly, of course, but the rumors were always louder in Genoa City than whispers in the dark. Lily hadn't asked. She didn't care to find out. Because it was easier pretending that night had never happened than dealing with the consequences. Except now, she couldn't pretend anymore. As the minutes ticked by, her mind replayed everything. The deceitful glances. The shared laughs. Chance had held her that night gently and protectively, as if he had recognized her brokenness. It had been more than just passion or desperateness. Additionally, there had been something else there. Something deeper. But even so, it wasn't any easier. She was distracted from her thoughts when she heard a knock at the door. Her chest tightened as her heart raced. Lily? Devon yelled through the door. It's me. Are you all right? She quickly hid the test under the towels and splashed cold water on her face, trying to steady her voice. Yeah, I'm all right. I'll be out in a minute. She was betrayed by her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes were red, her face pale. No longer could anyone hide the truth, not only from herself but soon also from anyone else. Devon sat in the living room sipping a glass of water, eyeing Lily with quiet concern as she emerged. He saw right through her attempt to act normal and casual, even forcing a smile. You've been quiet lately, he said gently. Is something going on? The words began to creep up her throat but would not let go as she hesitated. She had no way of telling her brother. How could she admit something so intimate and difficult? I've just been tired. Work's been hectic. Devon nodded, but he didn't buy it. Still, he didn't push. Later that night, when Lily was finally alone again, she stood in the darkness of her room staring at the ceiling. She was gnawed by the reality from every angle. She couldn't keep it a secret for much longer. Genoa City had a way of pulling truth into the light whether you liked it or not. And when it did, what would transpire? If he found out, what would Kane say? What would Chance do? What happens to Abby? Chance and Abby were said to be reconnecting, according to whispers. Would having a child with Lily forever change that? What about the infant, too? A life was growing inside her. A childlike, unaware individual who did not ask for any of this. It wasn't about her anymore. Or Chance. Or Kane. It had to do with the tiny heartbeat that would soon reverberate within her own. She had to tell Chance. The next morning, Lily walked into crimson lights, her palms sweating, her stomach twisted in knots not from morning sickness, but sheer anxiety. She spotted Chance sitting alone at a corner table, flipping through a folder, probably another case or crime scene update. She approached after taking a deep breath. "Hey," she said softly. Chance, surprised but happy, looked up. "Hello, Lily. Everything okay?" She didn't sit. She took no chances. "We must speak. Privately." He raised his eyebrows. "Sure." He quickly got up. "Let's head outside." They walked into the alley behind the cafe, the morning sun streaming down on them as the rest of the town buzzed unaware around them. Lily turned to face him, heart thudding. "This isn't easy for me to say. But I have to tell you something. Something important." Chance nodded, his concern growing. "I'm pregnant," she blurted, her voice barely above a whisper. "And it's yours." The silence that followed could have shattered glass. Chance stared at her, as if the words took time to register. He blinked once, twice, then stepped back slowly. "Wait, what?" Tears stinging her eyes, she nodded. "I didn't plan it. I didn't even consider it a possibility. But I took the test. I took 3, actually." Chance, every one of them said the same thing. He ran a hand through his hair, clearly overwhelmed. "But that night, we never talked about it again." "I was thinking," she interrupted. "I know. Me too. However, it occurred. And now? Are you sure it's mine?" She hesitated. "Yes. I haven't been with anyone else. Not since Kane. And that was before you. Long before." Chance nodded slowly, the weight of the news settling over him like a tidal wave. He looked away, then back at her. "Wow." That was all he said for a long while. Lily bit her lip, waiting, dreading. He finally turned to look at her. "Are you okay?" She broke through the barrier she'd built around her feelings with the kind and straightforward question. A tear slipped down her cheek as she shook her head. "I'm not sure." Then, Chance did something out of the ordinary. He pulled her into a hug. He said quietly, "I'm here. This will be solved by us." Genoa City was filled with grief and suspicion in the days following the double funeral. Chancellor, one of the first officers to arrive at the cabin explosion scene, felt something wasn't right. He had personally examined the bodies or what was left of them. One was definitely Carter. Dental records and a fingerprint off a partial hand confirmed as much. But the second body, the one everyone believed was Kane's, had been burned beyond recognition. 2 burned, according to Chance. The fire had engulfed the victim entirely, but oddly, the heat damage was inconsistent with the blast radius. Chance detected something off, but Victor Newman had already intervened. Kane Ashby, as it turned out, had been both worthy and useful, as Victor was known to protect. Kane had been secretly collaborating with Victor on a covert investigation into corporate espionage that was posing a threat to Newman Enterprises before he passed away. And when Victor found out that Kane was dead or thought to be dead, he immediately set up private investigators, secret autopsies, and sealed reports. Victor wanted to be absolutely certain that Kane was no longer there. Victor wanted to control the truth if he wasn't. Lily, meanwhile, was shattered. She felt the weight of grief pressing down on her with each breath. Her house felt like a graveyard. She could smell Kane's perfume, hear his laughter, and hear his boots on the hardwood floor in every corner. She was unable to sleep. Could barely eat. The only thing that kept her going was work, throwing herself into Chancellor Winters and burying the pain under board meetings, press conferences, and PR strategies. But Kane haunted her even in the conference room. She kept imagining his voice in her ear, gently advising her, warning her not to trust certain investors. And then, there were the dreams. At first, Lily thought it was her grief playing tricks on her. However, the dreams were vivid and very real. She saw Kane sitting in an unfamiliar hotel room in one. He appeared worn out, hurt, but alive. He reached for her, whispering her name, before the dream faded. She brushed it off, until it happened again. Yet again. She then discovered the letter. It arrived in an unmarked envelope, slipped under her door in the middle of the night. There was no return address, no fingerprints. Inside, a single sheet of paper with shaky handwriting. "I did what I had to do. Avoid looking for me. I'm safe right now." Lily's hands trembled as she read it over and over. The signature was smudged, but unmistakable. C. Ashby. She demanded answers and rushed to Chance with the letter. However, he advised caution. He said, "We require evidence." This could have been forged by anyone, but Lily was aware. She was aware in her heart. Cain was present. Carter's death had been the only real one if he was. The theory developed over time. It was staged by Cain. Or someone staged it for him. Victor, maybe?